Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and puppets. Here I am again, your favorite host, Ruba. Today, in a new episode of Puppet History, we're going to talk about the most interesting topic in the world. I know I say that all the time, but trust me now, this episode is different. We invite our dearest historians, Hercule Walter Theodore Albert Einstein from USA, Kansas. Wow, that's a big name for a small pet. Meilan from China. She's a smart and funny woman. And to end, and not to be cancelled for only bringing privileged people, we invite Abdel, a fan of the show and a very educated Palestinian, who is going to tell us about his perspective on the situation. So now, hear me closer. We all know that region continues to influence the historical narrative and political reality of Israel and Palestine today. However, how far does that influence really go? Here's a sneak peek of what's coming. Stay tuned. Britain started the whole thing by making empty promises. They just washed their hands. Blaming them for everything happening today will be naive. Over the last 75 years, it has turned into a global problem.
Hey!
Hello, Hercule Walter Theodore Albert Einstein. Tell us information that can guide us to answer this question.
Thank you, Raphael. And actually, I'm going to talk today about what happened in Israel and Palestine these days, and also some of their past horrible union and rivalry. First of all, we know that this country in this moment are in a heavy war a long time ago. But this also happened many times in the time. Actually, like 100 years ago, I think. Even more if I don't get wrong. One example of this is the First World War in 1940, where some Europeans and one American countries like England, France, and the USA, my home, were getting interested in the Middle East and helped them with the resources like food and clothes. Also, when the Mr. Adolf Hitler arrived to the control of the world after the Second World War, these people were getting chased by him, and they get killed them every day just for their beliefs, being Jews and Arab. But many years before Hitler, that horrible man, the world saw that the Jews were getting Palestine as a home, because Israel was giving the back to the persons, without prejudice to the civil and religious rights of the non-Jewish community. Nowadays, these two are in an ongoing military and political conflict about land and self-determination every day. This dispute began in the late 2025 until now, and you can ask, when this is going to end? We don't know with accuracy. Just time can answer this question, and we need to wait to see if they get in peace to make the world better, or we are going to live in a living hell.
Hey! Why do you keep blaming us for the Israel-Palestine conflict? We don't have anything, we have a lot to do with it, but it's not our fault. You see, we arrived in a complex region full of incompatible peoples and religions, and we thought, what could possibly go wrong? So we established mandates, wrote some very elegant documents, made up some policies, and with our characteristic confidence, decided that we could manage everything. Jews, Arabs, everyone would be satisfied, a flawless strategy, at least in theory. Well, we also had modern political institutions like the Jewish agency emerge. Some did better than others, not because we had favorites, of course. We would never do anything so un-British as to indirectly favor one group whilst weakening another through administrative decisions and security operations. It's so rude of you to say that. And when the situation became extraordinarily complicated, we did what any responsible imperial power could do. We handed the problem over to another international organization and withdrew with dignity. Of course! With something similar to dignity. Since then, every discussion about borders, legitimacy, sovereignty, or national identity seems to begin with someone saying, And what did the British do? Frankly, it's exhausting to be in everyone's mouth. So yeah, we have something to do with the conflict, but if we get a good outcome, it's clearly thanks to us. If we don't, it's because people didn't follow our instructions. God save the king. And
Wait, who are you?
what do you mean, who am I? I'm John Excalibur III. Hey, leave me. You don't know anything about the British Empire.
Come, Maylan, after that awful intervention, we need some of your wisdom.
Okay, that was work. Let's get back to how the British Empire turned the Middle East playground into a black hole. My name is Maylan, and I'm here to tell you how events from nearly 80 years ago severely shaped today's reality. Picture the scene. The year is 1948. After promising the same land to the Palestinians and Jews, the British fed up with the mess. They packed their bags and didn't even bother to say goodbye, leaving behind the disaster they created. The day after their retirement, the Jews declared the State of Israel. For the Palestinians, this was the Nakba, the catastrophe. 700,000 people were expelled from their homes. Imagine leaving your house with barely the shoes on your feet and being told you can never return. But here's the bit erased from the record to make you think things were always this way. For nearly 30 years, when Jews settled on Palestinian lands, the British allowed the Jewish community to build complete institutions. They had their own unions, school, hospital, and even a shadow army. When the British left, the Jews had the skeleton of a state ready to function, and the Palestinians, their institutions had been dismantled through repression during the revolts. They were left with a structure without clear leadership and without a state. Palestinian culture was practically on the verge of extinction. Today, everything you see in the news bears the fingerprint of abandonment. The borders no one quite knows, the settlements growing unchecked, the abyssal economic gap between a tech-savvy Israel and bloc-bombarded Palestinian territories. It's all an echo of that colonial management. The lack of culture is a consequence of these actions. The British thought they could play divide and conquer, but what they did was divide and run. They left behind fire that's been burning to over 75 years, and they made the whole world believe that Palestine was a never great country, but rather intruders in their own land. That, my friends, is how not to manage a share apartment.
Welcome, Abdul.
Hi, I'm Abdul, and I'm going to talk about my country and the context behind this war. This war has been going on for centuries. We've had a somewhat peaceful existence during the Ottoman Empire, mainly having issues with our borders and with Jerusalem. The town, alongside religion, are our main problems, with the city having a holy connotation and great value to the Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians. The Jews believe that it has to be restored before the return of the Messiah, and the Muslims a lot of times justify violence against Israel in the name of Islam, of the Judgment Day. Both religions have attached the other and Jerusalem, not caring for the civilians or what the consequences can be. Then we have Britain giving us a false hope of independence. Egypt trying to invade Israel, giving them the opportunity to invade us. All of this has made our territory to be marked by war, blood, and the rumble of what were once our homes. Britain did a poor job promising Israel a land that never belonged to them in the first place. I can't really blame the Israelis for being angry at Britain and then washing their hands, but they have to understand that the Brits already left the ship. They no longer rule above us, and they can't keep exiling us from our birthplace just because they promised it to them 80 years ago. That's not how it's supposed to work. We don't have to pay with our lives from something a third party promised. Now, the US has in its best interest that Israel keeps us in check and repressed. They need the oil, the territory, and to keep the position that helped during the Cold War against the Soviet Union. The US tried to meddle with Israel and settle them in our territory after the Brits left the picture. They do have a white savior complex. Even though the US promised to keep a neutral stance on the matter, they do support Israeli genocide in Gaza and Hamas. Even if it's just based on politics or Christianity, they have a bias. As a Palestinian, it feels outrageous that they keep invading us and trying to exile us from our own home. We can't keep living on poor conditions just because they refuse to let go of our borders and Jerusalem. People back home don't even have access to clean water. I miss my family, but I can't go back to living in poverty and with the fear that a bomb is going to kill us any minute. Thank you.
Okay, we've seen the drama. Oh, things got deep for a second. We can't deny that this is an important and difficult topic to talk about.
because it involves so much memory and feeling. I think if we go back to our question, is it clear as a glass? Let's answer it. Britain started the whole thing by making empty promises. They promised the same land to two different peoples, empowerment one-side institutions while leaving the other completely exposed, and they just washed their hands of all to get out. However, blaming them for everything happening today will be naive. Britain started, yes, but over the last 75 years it has turned into a global problem. Global powers and the decisions made along the way have only made things worse, causing the conflict to evolve into what it is today. We can rewrite the past, but understanding it, how it started, is the only way to see how we got at this point. Now, goodbye to you all. I wish you a wonderful afternoon, far away from John Excalibur III.